The heavy oak door clicks shut behind me, a sound that echoes the finality of his words. Get out. My hand still trembles, a ghost of the tremor that ran through me when he first spoke. The air in this opulent office, thick with the scent of old money and unspoken threats, feels suddenly suffocating. Outside, the rain lashes against the panoramic windows of the isolated mansion, mirroring the storm inside me. I turn, my elegant, discreet dress feeling like a costume in this gilded cage, my silk blouse clinging uncomfortably. My gaze, though, refuses to drop. It locks onto his, across the vast polished desk, past the expensive whiskey decanter and the silent, watchful guards. He's a monolith in his tailored suit, his expression unreadable, yet something in my stare, perhaps the raw, unyielding desperation, or a flicker of defiance he hadn't expected, makes him pause. Wait, he says, the single word cutting through the silence, pulling me back from the precipice. The word hangs in the air, a fragile thread in the suffocating silence, momentarily suspending the inevitable. My breath catches, a sharp, involuntary gasp that feels too loud in the cavernous office. My heart, which moments ago had been a frantic drum against my ribs, now seems to hesitate, caught between the instinct to flee and the sudden, inexplicable command to stay. I can feel the weight of the two men in dark suits, his silent guards, shift slightly behind me, their presence a constant, chilling reminder of the power dynamics at play in this isolated fortress. The rain outside continues its relentless assault, a rhythmic drumming that only amplifies the tension, making the luxurious room feel less like a sanctuary and more like a gilded trap, every expensive object a testament to a world I never asked to enter, a world that now threatens to consume me whole. My mind races, a whirlwind of fear and a sliver of defiant hope. What does wait mean? Is it a reprieve, or merely a delay of execution? I've spent my life navigating the predictable, if sometimes frustrating, labyrinth of legal codes and courtroom decorum, where justice, however imperfect, is at least theoretically pursued. My small, unassuming law practice, nestled between a dry cleaner and a bakery in a quiet suburban street, feels a million miles away from this cold, imposing mansion. My days are usually filled with property disputes, minor traffic violations, and the occasional divorce, a far cry from the high-stakes life-and-death negotiations that clearly define this man's existence. The contrast is stark, a chasm between my ordinary world and the extraordinary, terrifying reality I now find myself trapped within. He leans back in his plush leather chair, the subtle creak of the expensive material the only sound he makes. His eyes, dark and piercing, never leave mine. They are eyes that have seen too much, commanded too much, and hold a chilling depth that speaks of absolute control. I try to decipher his expression, searching for any hint of emotion, any crack in the impenetrable facade, but find nothing. It's like staring into a void, a bottomless well of calculation and power. My own reflection, a pale, determined face framed by strands of dark hair that have escaped my neat bun, stares back at me from the polished surface of his desk, a stark reminder of how out of place I am here, a lamb in a lion's den, yet refusing to cower. The air conditioning hums almost imperceptibly, a constant low thrum that is the only other sign of life in this otherwise silent, watchful space. I remember the phone call, the one that pulled me into this nightmare. A frantic voice, a client I barely knew, accused of something far beyond his usual petty misdemeanors. He swore he was innocent, a pawn in a larger game, and begged for my help. My initial instinct was to decline, to refer him to someone more experienced in such murky waters, but there was a desperation in his voice, a genuine terror that resonated with something deep inside me. I believed him, or at least I believed his fear. That belief, that naive sense of duty, led me down a path I was utterly unprepared for, a path that twisted and turned until it deposited me here, in this man's office, facing a fate I couldn't possibly have imagined just weeks ago. The silence stretches, taut and suffocating, each second feeling like an eternity. My throat is dry, a desert of fear, but I refuse to swallow, refuse to show any sign of weakness. My hands, clasped tightly in front of me, are cold despite the warmth of the room, a testament to the internal battle raging within. I can feel the subtle tremor in my knees, a betrayal of my outward composure, but I stand tall, my shoulders back, my chin slightly raised. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about the client I tried to help, the innocent man caught in a web far too complex for him to untangle alone. It's about the principle of standing up for what's right, even when the odds are overwhelmingly stacked against you, even when the very air you breathe feels charged with danger. He finally speaks, his voice a low rumble that seems to vibrate through the very floorboards. "You have courage, lawyer." The words are not a compliment, but an observation, a detached assessment of a specimen under scrutiny. Or perhaps just foolishness. A faint, almost imperceptible smirk plays on his lips, a fleeting shadow that vanishes as quickly as it appears. I don't respond, unwilling to give him the satisfaction of a reaction, unwilling to confirm either interpretation. My gaze remains steady, unwavering, a silent challenge in the face of his immense power. The rain outside intensifies, a sudden downpour that momentarily drowns out the hum of the air conditioning, making the world beyond the glass seem even more distant, more irrelevant, as if only this room, this moment, truly exists. He gestures vaguely towards the empty chair opposite his desk, a silent invitation, or perhaps a command. I hesitate for a fraction of a second, my instincts screaming at me to run, to escape this place and never look back. But the word wait still echoes in my mind, a siren song of potential, of a chance, however slim, to change the narrative. I walk slowly, deliberately, towards the chair, my movements precise, controlled, betraying none of the turmoil within. The leather is cool against my legs as I sit, the chair surprisingly comfortable, a stark contrast to the discomfort of my situation. I cross my legs, my hands still clasped, maintaining a posture of professional detachment, a shield against the raw vulnerability I feel. "Tell me," he begins, his voice softer now, almost conversational, a dangerous lull that makes my senses sharpen even further. "Why do you persist? Why do you fight for a lost cause?" His question is a probe, an attempt to uncover my motivations, to find the weakness he can exploit. I meet his gaze directly, my voice, when it comes, surprisingly steady. Because it's not a lost cause, not yet, and because everyone deserves a defense. The words are simple, honest, and perhaps in this world, utterly naive. But they are my truth, the bedrock of my professional and personal identity, and I will not compromise them, not even here, not even for him. The faint scent of his expensive cologne, a subtle blend of cedar and something metallic, fills my nostrils, a constant reminder of his proximity and the danger it represents. He studies me for a long moment, his expression unreadable once more. I can feel the weight of his scrutiny, a pressure that threatens to crack my composure. I imagine him dissecting my words, my posture, my very being, searching for any tell, any sign of deceit or fear that he can leverage. This is a game of wills, a silent battle of attrition, and I am acutely aware that I am outmatched in every conceivable way. Yet, a stubborn resolve hardens within me. I may be out of my depth, but I am not broken. I will not break. The rain outside has settled into a steady rhythm, a monotonous backdrop to the silent drama unfolding within these walls, a drama where the stakes are higher than anything I have ever known. "You speak of justice," he muses, the word rolling off his tongue with a hint of disdain, as if it's a foreign concept, an abstract ideal with no place in his reality. Justice is a luxury, lawyer, a concept for those who can afford it, or those who are too weak to take what they want. His words are a chilling philosophy, a glimpse into the brutal pragmatism that governs his world. I feel a cold knot form in my stomach, a visceral reaction to the stark cynicism of his statement. It's a worldview so fundamentally opposed to everything I believe in, everything I've dedicated my life to, that it feels like a physical blow. Yet, I refuse to flinch, refuse to let him see the impact of his words. "Perhaps," I concede, my voice carefully neutral, "but even in your world, there are rules, there are consequences, And sometimes, even the powerful need someone to speak for them, someone who isn't afraid. It's a gamble, a dangerous provocation, but I need to assert my value, my purpose, if I am to survive this encounter. I can see a flicker in his eyes, a momentary surprise, perhaps even a grudging respect for my audacity. Or maybe it's just a trick of the light, a figment of my terrified imagination. The expensive artwork on the walls, abstract and imposing, seems to watch us, silent witnesses to this tense exchange, their vibrant colors a stark contrast to the muted tones of our conversation. He leans forward slightly, his elbows resting on the polished surface of the desk, his gaze intensifying. "And you believe you are that someone?" His tone is laced with skepticism, a challenge that hangs heavy in the air. I take a deep breath, steeling myself. I believe I am capable. I believe I am tenacious. And I believe in the truth, whatever it may be. My voice is stronger now, infused with a conviction that surprises even myself. It's a desperate plea, an assertion of my professional integrity in a place where such things seem utterly irrelevant. Yet it's all I have to offer. The faint scent of leather and expensive wood fills the air, a constant reminder of the luxury and power that surrounds me, a luxury that feels both seductive and terrifying. He watches me, a predator assessing its prey, and I can feel the meticulousness of his observation. Every detail, every nuance of my expression, my posture, my breathing, is being catalogued, analyzed. It's an unnerving experience, feeling so utterly exposed, so completely under the microscope of such a formidable individual. I remind myself to breathe, to maintain a steady rhythm, to project an image of calm and control, even as my internal world is a maelstrom of anxiety. The silence stretches again, but this time it feels different, less suffocating, more like a pause before a significant decision, a moment of reckoning that will determine the course of my immediate future, and perhaps the rest of my life. "Your client," he finally says, breaking the silence, his voice low and deliberate, "is a fool. He meddled where he shouldn't have. He knows too much." The words are a chilling confirmation of my worst fears, a stark admission of the danger my client is truly in. My stomach clenches, a cold dread spreading through me. This isn't just about a legal defense, it's about survival, about secrets that could cost lives. The implications of his statement are vast, terrifying, hinting at a network of power and influence far more extensive and ruthless than I had initially imagined. The rain outside has softened to a drizzle, but the atmosphere inside the office remains charged, heavy with unspoken threats and the weight of impending decisions. "He claims innocence," I counter, my voice a little weaker now, the weight of his words pressing down on me. "He claims he was set up, that he was used." I cling to this, to the last vestiges of my client's story, even as the man before me seems to dismiss it with a wave of his hand, a gesture of absolute authority. He merely raises an eyebrow, a subtle movement that conveys more skepticism than any spoken word. It's clear he doesn't believe in innocence, only in utility, in power, in the cold, hard facts of who controls what. The expensive, minimalist decor of the office, with its clean lines and stark colors, seems to reflect this brutal efficiency, a world devoid of sentiment or moral ambiguity. "Innocence is irrelevant," he states, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. "What matters is what can be proven and what can be controlled." He pauses, his gaze once again locking onto mine, a silent challenge. "And you, lawyer, are now in a position to be controlled, or to be useful." The words are a direct threat, a stark ultimatum, but also an offer, a dangerous invitation into his world. My heart pounds, a frantic rhythm against my ribs, as I realize the true gravity of my situation. I am no longer just defending a client. I am fighting for my own autonomy, my own survival, in a game where the rules are constantly shifting and the stakes are impossibly high. The rain has stopped, leaving behind a world washed clean, but the darkness within this room feels more profound than ever. The choice hangs before me, stark and terrifying, illuminated by the cold, calculating gaze of the man across the desk. To be controlled, or to be useful. The words echo in my mind, each syllable a heavy stone dropped into the churning waters of my fear. My legal training, my ethical compass, screams in protest, urging me to reject this insidious proposition, to cling to the principles that have always guided me. But the image of my client, his face etched with genuine terror, flashes before my eyes, a silent plea that overrides all other considerations. I know with a chilling certainty that if I walk away now, he is doomed. And perhaps so am I, for having dared to step into this dangerous arena. "What do you want from me?" I ask, my voice barely a whisper, but firm, betraying none of the internal turmoil. The question is direct, stripped of pretense, an attempt to cut through the veiled threats and get to the heart of his demand. He smiles then, a slow, predatory curve of his lips that sends a shiver down my spine. It's not a smile of amusement, but of satisfaction, of a hunter who has finally cornered his prey. The subtle scent of his expensive cologne, which had been a mere background detail, now seems to intensify, filling my senses, a constant reminder of his imposing presence and the suffocating power he wields effortlessly. "Information," he replies, the single word hanging in the air, heavy with unspoken implications. "Your client, despite his foolishness, has stumbled upon something valuable, something that belongs to me." He pauses, letting the weight of his statement sink in. "I need you to retrieve it, to untangle the mess he's made, quietly, discreetly, and without drawing any further attention. His instructions are clear, yet the underlying threat is palpable. This isn't a request, it's an order, delivered with the chilling authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience." The rain has completely ceased, and through the panoramic windows, I can see the first faint streaks of dawn painting the sky, a beautiful, indifferent world awakening outside this dark, dangerous room. My mind races, trying to piece together the fragments of information I have. My client, a small-time accountant, had been working on a seemingly innocuous financial audit for a shell corporation. He'd mentioned finding discrepancies, unusual transfers, and a hidden ledger. At the time, I'd dismissed it as typical corporate malfeasance, nothing that couldn't be handled through standard legal channels. Now I understand the true nature of those discrepancies. They are not just numbers on a page, they are threads in a vast, intricate web of illicit dealings, and my client, in his naive diligence, had tugged on one too many, exposing something that this man considers his property. "And if I refuse?" I ask, knowing the answer even before the words leave my lips. It's a desperate test, a final assertion of my dwindling autonomy. His eyes narrow and the predatory smile vanishes, replaced by an expression of cold, unwavering resolve. Then your client disappears. "And you," he adds, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, "will find that your quiet suburban life becomes very loud, very quickly. Your practice, your home, your reputation, everything you hold dear will unravel." The threat is explicit, chillingly precise, leaving no room for misinterpretation. He knows my vulnerabilities, my attachments, and he is not afraid to exploit them. A cold dread washes over me, a wave of nausea that threatens to overwhelm my composure. He's not just threatening me, he's threatening my entire existence, the carefully constructed life I've built with hard work and integrity. The thought of my small office, my quiet apartment, my elderly parents who depend on me, all being systematically dismantled by this man's unseen hand, is a terror far greater than any physical harm. I realize, with a sickening certainty, that I have no choice. My principles, my ethics, are luxuries I can no longer afford. Survival, and the survival of those I care about, has become the paramount concern. "What exactly is this information?" I press, trying to regain some semblance of control, to understand the scope of the task he's imposing upon me. He leans back again, a subtle shift in his posture that signals a momentary relaxation, a sign that he perceives my capitulation. "A series of transactions, a network of shell companies, a ledger, as your client so aptly put it, that details the true flow of certain assets. He pauses, his gaze sweeping over me, as if assessing my capacity to comprehend the magnitude of what he's describing. It implicates several individuals, powerful individuals, who believe themselves untouchable, and it points to a betrayal. The word betrayal hangs heavy in the air, a dark cloud in an already ominous sky. It's clear that this isn't just about money. It's about power, loyalty, and the ruthless enforcement of a code I can only begin to fathom. My client, in his unwitting pursuit of financial truth, has stumbled into a viper's nest of internal politics and dangerous secrets. I can feel the weight of this new responsibility settling on my shoulders, a burden far heavier than any legal brief I've ever carried. The luxurious office, with its muted colors and expensive furnishings, now feels less like a cage and more like a command center, a place where destinies are decided with cold, detached efficiency. Who are these individuals? I ask, pushing for more details, trying to grasp the full extent of the danger. He shakes his head slowly, a subtle gesture of dismissal. That is not for you to know. Your task is to retrieve the ledger and to ensure its contents remain private. To me. His emphasis on "to me" is chilling, a clear indication that he trusts no one, that even his own network is riddled with potential traitors. The paranoia, the constant suspicion of betrayal, which I'd read about in the files, is not just a concept. It's a living, breathing reality that permeates every corner of his world, and now, by extension, mine. He then provides me with a burner phone, a small, nondescript device that feels alien in my hand. This is your only means of communication with me. You will receive instructions, you will follow them, and you will not, under any circumstances, contact anyone else about this. Not the authorities, not your colleagues, not your family. His voice is a low, dangerous growl, leaving no doubt about the consequences of disobedience. The phone feels cold, heavy, a tangible link to a world I desperately want to escape, yet am now inextricably bound to. It's a leash, a silent collar, marking me as his property, his instrument in this dangerous game. As I leave the mansion, the morning light feels harsh, almost blinding after the dim, controlled illumination of his office. The air is crisp, clean, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant pine trees, a stark contrast to the oppressive atmosphere I've just left. I walk towards my car, a modest sedan that looks utterly out of place among the sleek, dark SUVs parked in the sprawling driveway. I can feel eyes on me, the silent, watchful presence of his security detail, their discreet forms barely visible behind tinted windows. I am no longer just a lawyer. I am an unwilling participant in a dangerous game, a pawn in a power struggle I barely understand, and the weight of that realization is crushing. The drive home is a blur, my mind replaying every word, every gesture, every chilling implication. My quiet suburban street, usually a source of comfort and familiarity, now feels strangely vulnerable, exposed. Every shadow seems to hold a hidden threat, every passing car a potential tale. The paranoia he spoke of, the constant suspicion, is already beginning to infect me, a creeping dread that settles deep in my bones. I pull into my driveway, the mundane act feeling profoundly surreal, as if I've stepped through a portal into an alternate reality, one where the rules of my old life no longer apply. I try to resume my normal routine, to immerse myself in the familiar rhythm of my law practice, but it's a futile effort. My focus is shattered, my thoughts constantly drifting back to the mansion, to his chilling words, to the burner phone that now sits like a ticking time bomb on my kitchen counter. Every client consultation feels trivial, every legal brief insignificant compared to the monumental task that now looms over me. I feel like an imposter, a fraud, pretending to be a normal lawyer while secretly carrying the burden of a dangerous, illicit mission. The contrast between my outward facade and my internal turmoil is a constant, agonizing strain. The first instruction comes 2 days later, a cryptic text message on the burner phone. A location, a time, and a single word. Observe. It's a small, unassuming cafe in a bustling part of the city, a place I've passed countless times without a second glance. Now it feels charged with hidden meaning, a stage for an unseen drama. My heart pounds as I dress, choosing discreet, elegant clothing, trying to blend in, to become invisible. I am no longer just an observer. I am a spy, an unwilling agent in a world of shadows and secrets. And the realization sends a fresh wave of fear through me. I arrive early, finding a table near the window, ordering a coffee I don't touch. My eyes scan the faces around me, searching for something, anything, that might fit the vague parameters of observe. The cafe is filled with the mundane sounds of everyday life: clinking cups, hushed conversations, the gentle hiss of the espresso machine. It's a stark contrast to the tension that coils within me, the heightened senses, the constant vigilance. I feel like an alien, an outsider, observing a world that is no longer truly mine, a world I can no longer fully trust. Then I see him, a man in a tailored suit, his face vaguely familiar from news reports, a prominent city councilman, known for his anti-corruption stance. He sits alone at a corner table, nursing a single espresso, his expression guarded, his eyes constantly darting around the room. He fits the description of an autoridade comprometida from the guide, a figure of power who might be secretly allied with the boss. My breath catches in my throat. This is it. This is the beginning of my descent into the rabbit hole, the first step on a path from which there may be no return. The coffee grows cold before me, untouched, a symbol of the life I've left behind. The city councilman, a man whose public persona is meticulously crafted around integrity and civic duty, now sits before me, a living embodiment of the hypocrisy that permeates this hidden world. My gaze, sharpened by a newfound paranoia, dissects his every movement, every subtle gesture. He sips his espresso, his fingers drumming a nervous rhythm on the ceramic cup, a tell that betrays the carefully constructed facade. I watch as he glances at his watch, then subtly scans the room again, his eyes lingering for a fraction of a second too long on the entrance. The tension in the air, though invisible to the casual observer, is a palpable force to me, a silent hum that vibrates through my very bones. A few minutes later, a woman enters the cafe. She is impeccably dressed, her dark, elegant coat and silk scarf exuding an understated power. Her movements are fluid, confident, her eyes sharp and intelligent. She doesn't look like a typical brazo direito, but her aura of authority is undeniable. She moves directly towards the councilman's table, her gaze unwavering. There's a silent acknowledgement between them, a brief, almost imperceptible nod, before she slides into the seat opposite him. The air around them seems to thicken, charged with unspoken words and hidden agendas, and I realize I am witnessing a clandestine meeting of immense significance. I pretend to be engrossed in a newspaper, my eyes darting over the headlines, but my focus is entirely on their table. Their conversation is hushed, their voices barely audible above the cafe's ambient noise, but their body language speaks volumes. The councilman is visibly agitated, his hands gesturing nervously, while the woman remains calm, composed, her expression unreadable. She seems to be delivering instructions, her words precise and deliberate, while he listens, his face a mask of growing concern. It's a dance of power, a silent negotiation where the stakes are clearly astronomical, and I am a privileged, terrified spectator. Suddenly, the woman reaches into her elegant handbag and pulls out a small, leather-bound book. My heart leaps into my throat. The ledger. This must be it. She slides it across the table towards the councilman, who hesitates for a moment, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and trepidation, before reluctantly taking it. He opens it, his gaze sweeping over the pages, and a flicker of something akin to horror crosses his face. It's clear that the contents are far more damning, far more dangerous than he had anticipated. The weight of the information, the sheer audacity of its existence, seems to press down on him, visibly crushing his composure. My burner phone vibrates subtly in my pocket, a silent command. I retrieve it, my fingers trembling slightly, and see a single word on the screen. Follow. My breath catches. This is it. The moment of truth. I have to act, to move, to become an active participant in this dangerous game. The thought sends a jolt of adrenaline through me, a mix of fear and a strange, unsettling exhilaration. I quickly pay for my untouched coffee, my movements as casual as I can make them, trying to project an air of nonchalance, even as my heart pounds a frantic rhythm against my ribs, threatening to betray my carefully constructed facade. As the councilman and the woman rise to leave, I follow at a discreet distance, my eyes fixed on the small leather-bound book clutched tightly in his hand. They exit the cafe and head towards a sleek black SUV parked just down the street, its tinted windows reflecting the bustling city scene like dark, unseeing eyes. The woman opens the passenger door for the councilman, a gesture of deference that speaks volumes about her true position, her subtle yet undeniable authority. He slides in, the ledger still in his grasp, his face pale and drawn. A man trapped in a nightmare of his own making, or perhaps a nightmare he helped to create. The woman then gets into the driver's seat, and the SUV pulls away smoothly, merging seamlessly into the city traffic. I quickly hail a taxi, my voice surprisingly steady as I give the driver instructions to follow the black SUV. The chase begins, a silent, tense pursuit through the labyrinthine streets of the city. My gaze is fixed on the vehicle ahead, my mind racing, trying to anticipate their destination, their next move. Every turn, every traffic light, every sudden stop feels like a potential trap, a moment where I could lose them, or worse, be discovered. The city, usually a source of comfort and familiarity, now feels like a vast, indifferent maze, full of hidden dangers. The SUV leads me out of the city, onto the winding rural roads I'd read about in the visual guide, roads that quickly become dark and isolated, flanked by dense forests. The streetlights disappear, replaced by the eerie glow of the moon filtering through the thick canopy of trees. My heart pounds with a primal fear. This is no longer a game of subtle observation. This is a direct confrontation, a descent into the heart of darkness. The silence of the countryside is broken only by the hum of the taxi's engine and the frantic beating of my own heart, a relentless rhythm that echoes the growing terror within me. Suddenly, the SUV turns off the main road, onto a narrow, unpaved track that disappears into the shadows of the forest. I instruct my taxi driver to follow, his reluctance palpable, his glances at me filled with a mixture of concern and suspicion. The track is bumpy, uneven, the trees pressing in on either side, their branches clawing at the night sky like skeletal fingers. The air grows colder, heavier, filled with the damp scent of earth and decaying leaves. I can feel the isolation, the profound sense of being utterly alone in this vast, menacing wilderness, far from any semblance of civilization or help. The track eventually opens into a clearing, revealing a sprawling, dilapidated industrial warehouse, its corrugated metal walls rusting, its windows broken and boarded up. It's exactly as described in the visual guide, a perfect setting for illicit dealings, for secrets to be exchanged and lives to be decided. The black SUV pulls up to a side entrance, its headlights cutting through the gloom, illuminating the peeling paint and graffiti-scarred walls. My taxi driver, clearly unnerved, pulls over at a safe distance, his face pale in the dim light of the dashboard. He looks at me, a silent question in his eyes, but I have no answers for him, only a desperate need to proceed. I pay the driver, telling him to wait, a lie I hope he believes. As he reluctantly agrees, I slip out of the taxi, moving silently towards the warehouse, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. The air is thick with the smell of damp concrete and stale metal, a chilling testament to the building's abandonment. I find a broken window, partially obscured by overgrown weeds, and peer inside. The interior is dimly lit by a few bare bulbs, casting long, dancing shadows that distort the figures within. I can see the councilman, his face a mask of terror, surrounded by several men in dark suits, the boss's silent guards. And then I see him, the boss. He stands in the center of the room, a commanding presence even in the dim light, his tailored suit a stark contrast to the grimy surroundings. He's holding the ledger, turning its pages slowly, his expression unreadable. The woman who delivered it stands beside him, her face impassive. The councilman is pleading, his voice a desperate, incoherent mumble, but the boss merely shakes his head, a gesture of finality. It's clear that the information in the ledger is damning, and the councilman's fate has been sealed. The cold, brutal efficiency of this world is laid bare before me, a terrifying spectacle of power and ruthlessness. Suddenly, a new figure emerges from the shadows, a man I don't recognize, his face hard and unforgiving. He's dressed in a dark, expensive suit, but his demeanor is different, more aggressive, more overtly menacing than the boss's usual guards. He approaches the boss, speaking in low, urgent tones, his gestures agitated. The boss listens, his expression tightening, a flicker of anger crossing his face. This must be the traitor force arrival, the external threat, the source of the betrayal that the ledger reveals. The tension in the warehouse is almost unbearable, a palpable force that seems to vibrate through the very air, threatening to erupt at any moment. The new man points a finger at the councilman, then at the ledger, his voice rising in volume, though still indistinct. It's clear he's accusing the councilman of something, perhaps of being a double agent, of trying to play both sides. The boss's face darkens further, his eyes narrowing to dangerous slits. He looks from the new man to the councilman, then back to the ledger, his mind clearly working through the implications, the layers of deceit. I realize, with a sickening jolt, that I am not just observing a transaction, I am witnessing a power struggle, a dangerous confrontation that could easily turn deadly, and I am caught in the crossfire. My burner phone vibrates again, a frantic buzz against my thigh. I pull it out, my hands shaking, and see a new message. Intervene. Retrieve ledger. Protect councilman. My blood runs cold. Intervene? Retrieve the ledger? Protect the councilman? It's an impossible task, a suicide mission. I am a lawyer, not a soldier, not a spy, but the command is absolute, leaving no room for doubt or hesitation. The boss, in his ruthless calculation, has decided that the councilman, despite his perceived betrayal, is still useful, still a piece on his chessboard that he intends to control. And I am his unwilling hand, his instrument in this dangerous game. I take a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart, trying to think, to plan. But there's no time for planning, no time for hesitation. The situation inside the warehouse is escalating, the voices growing louder, the gestures more aggressive. I know, with a chilling certainty, that if I don't act now, the councilman will be lost, and with him, any chance of retrieving the ledger, any chance of fulfilling my impossible mission. The cold, damp air of the warehouse presses in on me, a suffocating blanket of fear and impending doom. But a strange, desperate resolve hardens within me. I am in this now, irrevocably, and I will see it through, whatever the cost. I push open the broken window, the rusty hinges groaning loudly in the sudden silence. All heads snap towards me, their eyes wide with surprise, then suspicion, then anger. The boss's gaze, however, is different. There's a flicker of something akin to satisfaction, a grim acknowledgement that his pawn has finally made her move. I step into the warehouse, my elegant dress feeling utterly out of place in the grimy, dangerous surroundings, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. All eyes are on me, a lone figure in a world of shadows and violence, and I know, with a chilling certainty, that my life will never be the same. The silence that follows my dramatic entrance is deafening, broken only by the distant wail of a siren, a sound that feels both impossibly far away and terrifyingly close. Every eye in the warehouse is fixed on me, a sudden, unexpected intruder in their clandestine drama. The men in dark suits, the boss's guards, tense, their hands subtly moving towards concealed weapons. The traitor force arrival, the man who had been arguing with the boss, stares at me with undisguised fury, his face contorted in a mask of rage. The councilman, still clutching the ledger, looks at me with a mixture of shock and a desperate, fleeting hope, his eyes wide and pleading. The boss, however, remains impassive, his expression unreadable, a master of control even in the face of this unexpected disruption. His gaze sweeps over me, a slow, deliberate assessment, before finally settling on the councilman. The lawyer, he states, his voice calm, almost conversational, yet laced with an undeniable authority. "She has a message for you, Councilman." His words are a subtle redirection, a masterful manipulation of the situation, shifting the focus from my sudden appearance to a preordained purpose, as if my intervention was all part of his grand design, a calculated move on his intricate chessboard. My mind races, trying to comprehend his strategy, to understand what message he expects me to deliver. I have no message, only a desperate command to retrieve the ledger and protect the councilman. But I understand the unspoken implication. I am to play along, to maintain the illusion of control, to become his voice in this dangerous theater. I take a deep breath, forcing myself to meet his gaze, to project an air of confidence I do not feel. My elegant dress, which felt so out of place moments ago, now feels like a costume, a disguise for the terrified woman beneath, a shield against the raw danger that surrounds me. "The boss has decided," I begin, my voice surprisingly steady, drawing upon every ounce of professional composure I possess, "that your indiscretions, Councilman, are a matter to be handled internally. The ledger," I continue, gesturing towards the small leather-bound book in his trembling hands, "is to be returned to its rightful owner. And you," I add, looking directly at the councilman, "are to cooperate fully. Your cooperation will determine your future." The words are a carefully constructed lie, a desperate improvisation, but they carry the weight of his authority, a chilling echo of his own ruthless pragmatism. The traitor, force a rival, snarls, taking a step forward, his eyes blazing with anger. "This is a trick! She's with him! He's trying to protect his informant!" His accusation is loud, venomous, threatening to unravel the fragile facade I've just created. The boss's guards tense further, their hands now openly resting on the hilts of their concealed weapons, their eyes darting between the angry man and me, awaiting a command. The air in the warehouse crackles with an almost unbearable tension, a palpable sense of impending violence that threatens to erupt at any moment, consuming us all in its brutal embrace. The boss raises a hand, a subtle gesture that immediately silences the angry man. His gaze, however, remains fixed on me, a silent challenge, a test of my resolve. "She speaks for me," he states, his voice low and dangerous, leaving no room for argument. "Any challenge to her words is a challenge to me." His declaration is absolute, a chilling affirmation of his power, and a clear warning to anyone who dares to defy him. It's a moment of profound realization. I am no longer just a pawn. I am an extension of his will, a temporary conduit for his authority, and that realization is both terrifying and strangely empowering. I seize the moment, stepping forward, my eyes fixed on the ledger. "Give it to me, councilman," I command, my voice firm, leaving no room for hesitation. The councilman, caught between the boss's silent threat and the angry man's accusations, looks utterly terrified, his face pale and drawn. His hands tremble as he slowly extends the ledger towards me, his fingers brushing against mine as I take it. The leather is cold, smooth, a tangible link to the dangerous secrets it contains. I clutch it tightly, a trophy of my unwilling intervention, a symbol of the impossible task I am now forced to complete. As I secure the ledger, the traitor, force a rival, makes a sudden, desperate move, lunging towards the councilman, his intention clear. Before he can reach him, one of the boss's guards, moving with astonishing speed, intercepts him, a silent, brutal efficiency that speaks volumes about their training. A brief, violent struggle ensues, a flurry of fists and grunts, before the angry man is subdued, his face slammed against the grimy concrete floor. The sudden burst of violence is shocking, visceral, a stark reminder of the brutal reality of this world, a reality where words are often backed by swift, merciless force. The boss watches the scene unfold with a detached gaze, his expression unchanged. He then turns his attention back to me, a subtle nod of approval, a silent acknowledgement of my successful, albeit terrifying, intervention. "The councilman will be re-educated," he states, his voice devoid of emotion, the euphemism chilling in its implication. He will remember where his loyalties lie. The words are a death sentence for the councilman's political career, and perhaps, for his very soul, a chilling testament to the boss's absolute power to control and reshape lives. I feel a wave of nausea, a profound sense of complicity washing over me. I have saved the councilman's life, perhaps, but at what cost? I have become an instrument of this man's will, a participant in his brutal game, and the moral compromises I've made weigh heavily on my conscience. My hands, still clutching the ledger, feel stained, tainted by the illicit power they now hold. The air in the warehouse, thick with the smell of damp concrete and stale metal, now seems to carry the faint, metallic tang of fear and unspoken violence, a constant reminder of the darkness I have stepped into. The boss then gestures towards the side entrance, a silent command for me to leave. I turn, my movements stiff, my mind reeling from the events that have just transpired. As I walk towards the exit, I can feel his gaze on my back, a palpable weight that follows my every step. The guards, now relaxed, watch me with a mixture of curiosity and a silent, knowing assessment. I am no longer just an outsider. I am someone who has seen too much, done too much, and is now inextricably linked to their world, a world of shadows and secrets from which there may be no escape. I step out into the pre-dawn gloom, the air cold and damp against my skin. The taxi driver, surprisingly, is still there, huddled in his car, his face etched with concern. He looks at me, his eyes wide with unspoken questions, but I offer no explanations, only a silent, desperate plea to drive. As we pull away from the warehouse, I glance back, seeing the black SUV still parked by the entrance, its tinted windows reflecting the first faint streaks of dawn, a silent, ominous sentinel guarding the secrets within. The image is burned into my mind, a chilling tableau of power, fear, and the profound moral ambiguity that now defines my existence. The drive back to the city is a blur, my mind a maelstrom of conflicting emotions. Relief, for having survived the ordeal, mixes with a deep-seated dread, a chilling realization of the path I have now irrevocably embarked upon. The ledger, heavy in my lap, feels like a ticking time bomb, a repository of dangerous secrets that could destroy lives, including my own. I am no longer the naive lawyer who believed in the simple pursuit of justice. I am a woman forever changed, tainted by the darkness I have witnessed, by the compromises I have been forced to make. As the taxi pulls up to my apartment building, the familiar facade seems alien, detached from the terrifying reality I now inhabit. I pay the driver, my hands still trembling, and step out into the quiet street. The city is slowly awakening, the sounds of morning traffic beginning to fill the air, but I feel utterly alone, isolated by the weight of the secrets I carry. I glance around, a new habit, searching for unseen eyes, for hidden threats, the paranoia now a constant companion, a chilling echo of the boss's own world. I enter my apartment, the familiar surroundings offering little comfort. The burner phone, which had been silent since the command to intervene, now vibrates with a new message. I retrieve it, my heart pounding, and see a single word. Well done. It's a chilling commendation, a mark of approval from a man whose world is built on fear and control. The message is a stark reminder that I am still under his watchful eye, still bound to his will, and that my ordeal is far from over. The ledger, now placed carefully on my coffee table, seems to pulse with a silent, dangerous energy, a constant reminder of the precarious tightrope I now walk. My life, once predictable and ordered, is now a chaotic tapestry of fear, moral compromise, and constant vigilance. The lines between right and wrong have blurred, twisted by the demands of survival and the insidious influence of a world I never asked to join. I am a lawyer, yes, but I am also an unwilling agent, a keeper of dangerous secrets, a woman forever marked by the chilling encounter in the isolated mansion and the brutal reality of the warehouse. The future is uncertain, fraught with unseen dangers, but one thing is clear. I am in this now, irrevocably, and the only way out is through, whatever the cost, whatever the consequences. The ledger lies on my coffee table, a silent, ominous presence in the otherwise familiar comfort of my apartment. Its leather cover, once smooth and unassuming, now feels charged with a dangerous energy, a repository of secrets that have irrevocably altered the course of my life. I trace the embossed patterns with a hesitant finger, the weight of its contents pressing down on me, a constant reminder of the moral tightrope I now walk. Every rustle of leaves outside, every distant siren, sends a jolt of adrenaline through me, a chilling echo of the paranoia that has become my unwelcome companion, a constant gnawing fear that I am being watched, that the walls themselves have ears. The "well done" message from the boss still flickers in my mind, a chilling commendation that feels more like a brand than an accolade. It signifies my unwilling induction into his world, a world where loyalty is enforced through fear and betrayal is met with swift, brutal consequences. I am no longer just a lawyer, an advocate for justice. I am an asset, a tool in his intricate game of power and control. The realization is a bitter pill to swallow, stripping away the last vestiges of my former identity, leaving me adrift in a sea of moral ambiguity, where the lines between right and wrong have blurred into an indistinguishable haze. I try to resume my normal life, to immerse myself in the mundane routines of my law practice, but it's a futile effort. The cases that once consumed my attention now seem trivial, insignificant, overshadowed by the monumental weight of the secrets I carry. My clients, with their petty disputes and legal woes, appear oblivious to the hidden currents of power and danger that now flow beneath the surface of my existence. I wear a mask of professional composure, a carefully constructed facade that hides the turmoil within, but every smile feels forced, every conversation a performance, a desperate attempt to maintain the illusion of normalcy. My apartment, once a sanctuary, now feels like a gilded cage, a place where I am constantly on edge, perpetually scanning the shadows, listening for the slightest sound. Sleep offers little respite, haunted by vivid nightmares of dark SUVs, isolated mansions, and the cold, unreadable gaze of the boss. I wake in a cold sweat, my heart pounding, the lingering scent of damp concrete and stale metal from the warehouse clinging to my senses. The world outside my window, with its bustling streets and indifferent crowds, feels both distant and menacing, a constant reminder of the unseen forces that now govern my life. The burner phone, a small black rectangle of plastic and metal, sits on my nightstand, a silent sentinel, waiting for its next command. It is my only link to the boss, my lifeline to a world I desperately want to escape, yet am now inextricably bound to. I check it compulsively, a nervous tick, dreading the next message, yet also anticipating it with a strange, morbid curiosity. Each vibration, each cryptic instruction, pulls me deeper into the labyrinth, further away from the life I once knew, further into the shadows where morality is a luxury and survival is the only currency. I think of the councilman, his face etched with terror as he handed me the ledger. His re-education, as the boss so chillingly put it, is a fate I can only imagine, a systematic dismantling of his will, a forced realignment of his loyalties. I saved his life, perhaps, but I also condemned him to a different kind of prison, a mental servitude far more insidious than any physical confinement. The knowledge of my complicity gnaws at me, a constant festering wound on my conscience, a stark reminder of the compromises I have been forced to make, the ethical boundaries I have been compelled to cross. The ledger itself is a Pandora's box, its pages filled with names, dates, and figures that paint a chilling picture of corruption and illicit dealings. I've spent hours poring over its contents, trying to decipher the intricate web of shell companies and offshore accounts, the carefully concealed transactions that implicate powerful individuals across the city. It's a testament to the sheer audacity and reach of the boss's network, a chilling blueprint of his empire. I understand now why he wanted it so desperately, why he was willing to go to such lengths to retrieve it, and why its secrecy is paramount to his continued reign. The traitor, force arrival, the angry man in the warehouse, remains an unknown quantity, a lingering threat on the periphery of my new reality. His accusations, his venomous rage, suggest an ongoing power struggle, a dangerous internal conflict within the boss's organization. I am a pawn in this larger game, caught between warring factions, my loyalty constantly under scrutiny, my every move potentially scrutinized by unseen eyes. The thought of being caught in the crossfire, of becoming collateral damage in their brutal power plays, sends a shiver of fear down my spine, a cold premonition of the dangers that still lie ahead. I find myself constantly analyzing situations, looking for hidden meanings, for subtle cues, for the unspoken threats that lurk beneath the surface of everyday interactions. My legal mind, once focused on precedents and statutes, is now honed to detect deception, to anticipate danger, to navigate the treacherous currents of this new, brutal world. It's a skill born of necessity, a survival mechanism, but it comes at a cost, eroding my trust in others, fostering a deep-seated cynicism that threatens to consume my very soul, leaving me isolated and alone. The isolation is perhaps the heaviest burden. I cannot confide in anyone, not my colleagues, not my friends, and certainly not my family. The secrets I carry are too dangerous, too profound to share. I am forced to bear this weight alone, a solitary figure navigating a treacherous landscape, pretending that everything is normal, even as my internal world crumbles around me. The silence of my apartment, once a comfort, now feels oppressive, amplifying the echoes of my fear and the gnawing loneliness that has become my constant companion. I sometimes catch glimpses of my old self in the mirror, the determined eyes, the slight frown of concentration, but it's a stranger looking back at me, a woman hardened by fear, shadowed by secrets. The naive idealism that once fueled my passion for justice has been replaced by a grim pragmatism, a ruthless focus on survival. I mourn the loss of that innocent self, the woman who believed in the inherent goodness of people, the woman who saw the world in shades of black and white before it dissolved into a terrifying spectrum of gray. The cost of my choices, the sacrifices I have made, weigh heavily on my conscience. My integrity, my sense of self, my very soul have been chipped away, piece by painful piece, by the demands of this new reality. I am a different person now, irrevocably changed by the crucible of fear and moral compromise. The path I have chosen, or rather, the path I have been forced onto, has led me to a place where the pursuit of justice is a dangerous illusion, and survival is the only truth that matters. My freedom is an illusion, a carefully constructed facade that hides the invisible chains that bind me to the boss's will. I am free to move, to speak, to pretend to live a normal life, but every action, every decision, is now filtered through the lens of his control, his expectations, his unspoken threats. I am a puppet on his strings, dancing to a tune I did not choose, a prisoner in a gilded cage. My movements dictated by the whims of a man who sees me as nothing more than a useful tool. The burner phone vibrates again, a sudden jarring intrusion into the quiet of my apartment. I pick it up, my heart leaping into my throat, a fresh wave of adrenaline coursing through my veins. The message is short, cryptic, a single word that sends a chill down my spine. Prepare. Prepare for what? Another mission? Another dangerous encounter? The ambiguity is terrifying, leaving me suspended in a state of perpetual anxiety, forever waiting for the next shoe to drop, the next command to be issued. I look at the ledger, then at the burner phone, then out the window at the city lights twinkling in the distance. My life is no longer my own. It belongs to him, to the secrets I carry, to the dangerous game I am now forced to play. The future is a dark, uncertain road, fraught with unseen dangers and moral compromises. But I know, with a chilling certainty, that I am in this now, irrevocably, and the only way out is through, whatever the cost, whatever the consequences, until the final, inevitable reckoning. My journey into the heart of this hidden world has just begun, and I am merely a passenger, strapped into a roller coaster I never wanted to ride, hurtling towards a destination unknown. My fate inextricably linked to the whims of a man who holds my life and the lives of those I care about in the palm of his hand. The silence of the night presses in, a heavy blanket of unspoken threats, and I know, with a chilling certainty, that my fight for survival, my desperate struggle to reclaim my life, has only just begun.